Welcome back, everyone. It is so nice to have you here. I appreciate every single one of you. For those of you coming back, thank you so much for being here. It tells me that you're learning something here and that you find it valuable and that I'm helping in some way solve some questions or um, confusion that you may have when it comes to these subject matters and making things make sense better. And so I appreciate you guys. And then for those of you that are new here, welcome to this platform. Uh, in this platform, we obviously are going to be discussing a lot of pro se, um, laws around, I'm going to be helping pro se litigants, better comprehend the laws around the federal and state and tax courts, as well as like civil and criminal and tax issues and whatnot. And so I created this space obviously because I got pulled into a lot of misinformation online, became a student of to become a fraud examiner expert, and it's kind of what highlighted a lot of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you guys here in this journey going forward. And I'm honestly so excited because now I'm operating from a lens of honesty, like real truth and honestly, like very clear clarity, if that makes sense. And I want to share that with everyone because I feel like if there was someone in the space that had the lens of a fraud examiner that was already or had already gone through a lot of the misinformation that was online, then I would have appreciated it instead of having to go through things and wasting time and learning a lot of things the hard way. But at the same time, what doesn't break you makes you. And so I'm here to help those that are seeking more clarity from a lens of the inside, and somebody that had already gone through certain things from the space of freedom and a lot of the things that are out there and misleading a lot of people into and leading people into prison. And so today we're going to be discussing the United States Tax Court. So let me just make sure I have my notes here. I have a few things that I want to cover about, one would be what is the tax court? The jurisdiction, that'd be two. And then the structure, because if you don't understand the structure, then, a lot of gurus and influencers out there, they really aren't about this life. Either they do it for the gram or they do it for YouTube or, for clout. They don't really understand. They're probably working somewhere, not doing this full time. Like, this is what I do. I research legal procedures. I research evidence. I research, how the court system actually works. I have 10 years of experience in the legal field, and I made a mistake. Anyways, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but that's all I do. This is what I like. This is what I eat, breathe, and sleep with, right? And amongst other things, because I also love self-improvement as far as like spiritually and mentally. But, I think I believe this is what grounds me into reality because I can tend to get very spiritual and I tend to get very Um, yeah, I guess very spiritual. I love talking about like affirmations. I love um like all kinds of like things that have to do with philosophy and psychology and spirituality, physics. All that stuff excites me. And you may not know that because all I talk about is, you know, um kind of like the court system and financial scams and stuff like that. But this is what grounds me because a lot of things in the digital realm world of like where we're in with Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or I don't even know what it's called, X now. What's the other one? TikTok, all these other things. You know, when you get into the space of freedom and they start talking about your God-given rights and all this other stuff and blah, 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 you can get a little bit a little bit too far and blaming everything on, or not blaming because you don't think you're blaming it, but get a little bit ahead of everything and just saying that it's because it's, your God-given right. And it gets perverted. Just like in church, there's certain churches that pervert being able to do certain things or whatever in the name of God and this and that. I think that in the legal system, and in finances and everything, people do things in the name of God and try to say that it's all because that's their God-given right and God wanted it that way and God left them all this stuff and blah 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 blah. And so they start to get into a space where there's no what is that word that I'm looking for when you get really delusional? Um Let me see. Where you just lose the aspect of reality and what grounds you, right? And that can even go in the spiritual realm too, because it's like, some people get so like delusional about like, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. And I'm not saying that's delusional. I'm not saying don't practice that, don't do that. But it gets to the point where you have to know that, you know, you can't say, I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna fly. I know how to fly, and then jump off a building and then not expect to die. So, that's the delusion that I'm talking about. Let me see if there's another word that I'm looking for. There's another word that I'm looking for, but I can't think about it. It is grandiose delusion. I don't know. There's another one, but basically you just lose touch with reality and you think that, you're untouchable, that certain laws don't apply to you, or whatnot. And this is really what grounds me, to be honest. And so because I can get extremely spiritual. And I think that it's important to have something that grounds you so that you can know the difference between what can actually happen and what is when you hit a wall and that's a wall that's going to hit you in the head and don't just walk into the wall, right? Or don't just jump off the building and just because you said you can fly and then find out the hard way. And so I'm not sure if that's making sense here, but hopefully it does. And so I love this topic. It's what I've talked about for the last, or not, with this community, but it's what my whole field and my whole background has been in is the legal field. And so because I fell into craziness in the public space around these topics, I just figured that I would just bring in, you know, um, raw facts that will help those not fall to the floor and mess themselves up, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, you guys. I don't know. Sometimes my analogies are not the best, but I try. I try. All right. So before we go any further, please hit that like button because it does help the algorithm get me out there and get in front of people to help them not find out the hard way of learning these things, and so it helps, the algorithm. And then if you comment, it also helps as well. It doesn't cost anything, it's free. So yeah, please don't forget to hit the like button and comment and subscribe. So that way, if you do like this, you get notified every time that I upload something. I'm going to be uploading twice a week. And I believe I'm going to be doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I'm not sure yet. I may do Tuesdays and Thursdays or Tuesdays and Fridays, but for sure Tuesday. And so that's what's going to be happening in this channel. And right now, we're going to be just focusing on civil laws and procedures, federal taxes, maybe for like the next month or so. And then I'm going to go into trust and potentially go into other topics. But if you are interested in trust, I do have an academy that is on my private school academy, which is at $55 right now, and it's actually going to go up in a few weeks once I'm done with the PMA module, or I'm halfway done with the PMA module, if you're interested in PMA. And that's the only place that I actually go live with others where I'm on Zoom and we get to go ahead and speak face to face. And you can ask me whatever questions that you have. And right now it's at 55, and within 2 weeks it's going to go up to 111 a month or 997 a year. Okay, so I just want to put that out there in case you guys are interested in coming to the private side and learn about trust structures, 508c1a exemptions, the PMAs, and other subject matters as well. So before we go and dive into this topic, I do want to just do my disclaimers. So I am not a licensed attorney. I am not a CPA, and I am not a financial advisor. Everything that's in this platform is all educational purposes only. Please do your due diligence. I encourage everyone to always, always, always fact check everything. Sometimes things change, sometimes statutes change, sometimes laws change, and it's best that you do your due diligence and see what's like current and all of that. And if you do like this series that I'm going to be talking about, which is the pro se for litigants, I do also have a course dedicated for pro se litigants at prosecourse.com. And that's 110 modules, which it sounds like a lot, but it goes into depth on start to finish from a complaint until the end of a case and what you're supposed to be doing and things like that, as well as an AI analyzer on your case and court calendars. And it has just so many great features that if you are interested, that's there too. And I also have a free, what is it? A free 5 motions that you should know about guide that you can get there as well, and it's free. And yeah, thank you to everyone who has become a member too as well here in my YouTube, because I know not everybody can afford 55 or whatever. And so for those of you that have become members on my YouTube, which is the 799 members, thank you, because that helps me get coffee and come on here and really it's really good feedback for me, because I know that some people don't like to comment, some people don't like to, be out there and known or whatever. And so I'm getting members that are just treating me to coffee. And I really appreciate that, because it's kind of what makes me keep going on here on YouTube and whatnot. So, okay. So now that I did the disclaimers, let's get into the tax court and what it is, right? So, you know, there's a lot of things out there where you have people stating or saying that they're gonna go to the tax court because they're gonna audit the IRS, excuse me, because they are stealing from the people through the birth certificate. And again, I was in that space of the sovereign mentality, be sovereign, be sovereign. And honestly, all that stuff is on the FBI watch list. And it's well known. And I can do a video about that. That's actually a video that's in my academy. So if you're interested in that, please go visit. But I try not to bring it too much here to the public, because it just gets too belligerent and too much combativeness, because it does touch on people's belief system. And so I want to just focus really in the public on how to help everyone, not just, call people out because they are doing things incorrectly or something like that, because I know that I was there once and I just didn't comprehend it and you couldn't really tell me anything. And so there's that. So a lot of people in the movement or in the space of freedom will start saying that they're gonna go to the United States court, United States tax court, because the tax system is fraud and blah 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 blah. Now, if you would have asked me then, I would have said yes, that is correct, blah blah blah. But if you really dig deep into all of this stuff, you know, I don't even want to even discuss, the whole thing of it, because the truth of the matter is that we have to contribute to this country somehow for military services. And I know we're not supposed to be in any kind of war, and sometimes there's people that are against wars and this and that, but that doesn't stop criminals from trying to come here and violate you. And so we do need to have, services that help soldiers, get paid and all that stuff. And then, even with roads, there's shitty roads sometimes, and they do need to fix these roads and things like that. And people be like, well, money's made out of thin air and blah, blah, blah. You know, I will get into financial things more down the road, and I want to get into more financial things once I am certified as an fraud examiner expert, and let you guys know from an expert view, because it's just it gets really complicated, and it can I don't want to cause confusion in here. I just want to talk about the United States tax court. And so we already touched based on the federal court, courts of appeals, the state courts, and whatnot. And then now is just the United States tax court. So while state and federal handle like variety types of cases, right? The legal system also includes specialized courts, right? Which is designed to help with specific types of disputes. You have the state court, which handles a lot of civil and criminal. And then you have the federal, which handles a lot of constitutional treaties, civil rights, things like that, bankruptcies and things like that. And then one of the most, courthouse that handles anything to do with taxes, uh, is the United States Tax Court. And so this is really where people, go if you're trying to get some kind of remedy, right? So what is a tax court? What exactly do they do at these tax court, so that you don't go in there thinking that you're going to go file just because you decided that somebody, your favorite influencer or your favorite guru went and filed, and they keep getting all their stuff dismissed, and you think that's a win. But if you actually look at the docket, it's not a win, you guys. It's not a win at all, unfortunately. But what is the United States Tax Court? So the United States Tax Court is a specialized federal court that's established by Congress as well, which is like, kind of like the judges of the federal court. And under Article 1, the United States of the United States Constitution, this is how this is established. This is how this court is established. This is how everything here and this courthouse is established. It's under Article 1 of the United States Constitution. So it's unlike the federal district courts, which are Article 3 courts. Okay. The tax court is like the sole purpose is disputes of over federal income, gifts, and estates, taxes, and anything that has to do with federal, right? This is the court for that. And so what jurisdiction does this court really have, right? It doesn't just, they don't listen to homicide cases. They don't listen to, um, you know, contract cases or business cases or things like that. It primarily hears where a taxpayer disputes a tax deficiency. So let's just say, for example, you're a taxpayer, I'm a taxpayer, and I say, I owe like $100,000. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I don't know if like how did this all like come about that I owe $100,000, right? And so I have to believe that somewhere in their accounting it is completely wrong. And so now that because I'm a taxpayer and I found some kind of deficiency in the IRS and the federal tax, taxes or whatever, um, I can now go uh, before the United States court before I try to even pay the IRS anything and have, the dispute um, in front of the court because I want to make sure that before I give a penny that this is accurate, right? And so that's a jurisdiction that a United States tax court has. Now, you have to be a taxpayer though. So that's the thing, right? And so that is the thing that you need to keep in mind. You can't be oh my gosh, there's just so many crazy things out there, you guys. Like there really is crazy things out there because there's people doing things as far as like trying to get their estate and deceasing the estate and then collecting from the estate and then doing like oh my gosh, it's like what is it? Death certificates. And so, it's crazy some of the things that I see online and then people, it's like it goes viral and I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so many people getting scammed right now. Um, but my point is that you can't go to the court now if you're the walking dead. Literally. You just deceased what was benefiting you to utilize for anything, honestly. Anyway, so that's neither here or there. But the key features of its jurisdiction is prepayment disputes. So if taxpayer can challenge an IRS ruling. So like if the IRS ruled that you owe 100,000 or $100,000 without having, and anything for you to say, the taxpayer, which is you or myself, can then sue for a refund or sue for damages. So the jurisdiction and scope of, the key of it all is that prepayment disputes, for example, where a taxpayer challenges an IRS ruling without having to pay the contested tax first, right? Like if a taxpayer chooses to pay the tax and sue for a refund, they have to go and file that through the United States District Court of the United States Court of Federal Claims, not tax court. Okay, so just comprehend that. Now, the next key feature is they have to like the types of taxes that they handle is it handles disputes related to income tax, corporate tax, estate tax, and gift taxes. And it generally does not handle like overemployment taxes or excess taxes or things like that. That'd be like I said, the federal claims United States court. Now, when it comes to structure and judges of the United States court, United States tax court, how is that structured, right? And how does that work? So, the judges, it's composed by 19 judges, right? And this is the United States tax court. And they're appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Okay. So it's not like the Article 3 where the federal judges who have life like until they get impeached or until they retire or whatever, tax courts judges serve only a 15-year term. Okay, until they decide to retire or whatever. And then the location is physically located in Washington, D.C. But its judges travel nationwide to conduct trials in various designated cities, making it accessible for taxpayers across the country. Okay. So it's super important to keep in mind is that unlike, a state, you know, case where there's trials that can be, you know, um, given to people or people have the right for trial and, to be in front of a jury. Tax court is not like that. You don't, there's no juries. So cases in the tax court are heard and decided solely by a judge. There's no jury trials in the United States tax court, and that's just what it is. And so I know that I've seen where there was something on Instagram that was like trending. I want to say like maybe a few months back. And it's some guy who is, and I'm sure you know who he is, but I'm not gonna say his name, is goes into this court and it's like, I want to do a full audit of everybody and blah blah blah. And it's like, I believe he mentioned somewhere in there that he was going to fire the judge or something like that, or he was going to get the judge fired or whatever. The point is, the judge had to recuse himself because as soon as you say you're going to fire a judge, there's already bias by that judge because you've just insulted him or her. It's like somebody coming to your job and saying, I'm going to get you fired. You're going to be like, motherfucker, I want you to get the fuck out of my face. Who the fuck do you think you are? Get the fuck out of here. Because you're coming in combative. So now that judge has to recuse himself or her so that they're not biased towards your case. And so this individual who this like individual woman is not even in like, she's just following trends and is promoting this guy is oh, look how he talks to the judge and the judge recused himself and he must be doing something right and no, now the judge dismissed the case and it's a win. No, that's not how it works. The judge recused themselves because as soon as you say you're going to go after them, they have to recuse themselves so that there is no bias in your case. And then the reason it gets dismissed is because you brought no evidence. And so therefore you have no proof of evidence and you got your case dismissed. That goes for any of these courts. Okay. Now, it's just crazy how people get it's just crazy. All right, so now let's move on to I have my notes here, the small tax case procedure. So to make this process, right, accessible for everyday taxpayers, the tax court offers a simplified procedure for smaller disputes. If the amount dispute is $50,000 or less for any single tax year, a taxpayer can elect the small tax case, okay? Or the S case, that's what it's called, procedure. So the S case procedure applies to people who owe $50,000 or less in taxes in one calendar year, okay? The process is less formal and it's faster and it often allows taxpayers to represent themselves without an attorney, okay? However, decisions made under an S case are final. So it cannot be appealed in a higher court or anything like that. It is final. They came to the conclusion. If you did not make your case as good as you needed to make it, too bad. Go study some more. You know what I'm saying? This whole platform, I want you guys to really soak in things before you go and try to start fighting in court, so that you are really, really, especially because a lot of people can't afford 10,000, 20,000, 10 to $25,000 of a retainer in lawyer fees. So they have to do pro se. But then when you start listening to all these garbage guru influencers tell you how to go in there, and then you're gonna get your fucking shit dismissed, or you're gonna, lose because you're following bullshit online. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are gonna get our cases as to the T as possible with all the evidence and everything that is gonna help us, so that way, when there is a judgment and it is, final or whatever, that we did the best we could with the knowledge that is out here, that I'm giving it to you guys for free. Because some of y'all ain't even giving me a cup of coffee. So it's here for free. But you should give me a cup of coffee. I'm just saying. Or, bagel or something. But anyways, instead of just listening to people who just want clout, they don't know, they're not about this life, or they're just getting scammed themselves, and they're just lost in the process themselves. And it's like the blind leading the blind. And so, I just want you guys to stay vigilant. So now let's go on why the tax court matters. Okay. Now, the tax court matters because it plays a vital role in the federal legal system by providing specialized and like a specialized form of things, and where complex taxes or tax laws can be interpreted by judges with specific expertise in taxation. All right. So everything is about expertise, right? You got civil, that their expertise is all about, a business, contracts, this, the other, blah, 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 blah. Criminal, homicide, theft, burglary, financial scams, white collar crime, embezzlements. Okay, you got those judges. They're specializing. They're honing in on that, on all of that. Then you got the appellate court. They look at everything and they're like, what the fuck is going on here? Then you got the federal or the state Supreme Court. Then you have, where they make the decisions based on all the evidence that you've provided or they provided or whatever. Then you have the federal court, where was your constitutional rights violated? What the fuck happened? Where's the treaties at? What's going on? You got those judges that are, focusing and honed in on that. Now you have this tax court where it is there to help you should you have issues with any kind of federal or income tax or whatever. Okay. Now, I hope I'm not going too fast for you guys, honestly. Let me just make sure I got my notes here before I close this out, because I'm almost done. But yes, the judges with specific expertise in taxation, and it ensures that taxpayers have a fair opportunity, right? You get a $50,000 fucking bill and you're like, what the fuck is this bullshit? You know what I'm saying? I don't owe this. And sometimes people get scammed, or they get their social security taken, and then somebody's using it, and now all of a sudden you've been working somewhere in freaking Florida, and you've been living in Wisconsin, and you're like, I've never lived here. And now you have to go in and show proof, like, I've been living here. I don't know who the fuck took my identity, and here's my police report, and blah, 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 blah. So I don't owe these taxes. Leave me the fuck alone. It's there. Okay? It's there to help you. Now, so anyways, it ensures that we all have a fair opportunity, you guys. It's here and all for our benefit. This is all for our benefit. I'm not saying that there's not people that that should be removed from these systems, because some of them just are not. They're like power trippers, and they're like, well, I'm the judge and I just say whatever. And then those type of judges need to recuse themselves for real, because if they are being biased because they're in a power trip, that's a different story. But for the most part, they're not. And so, it's just a good system to have, should you get some kind of, like an enormous bill or an enormous tax bill, and you don't know where to go. Obviously, you can go to tax advocacy. They help you for free. And then if that doesn't work, then you go to the tax court. If you have $50,000 or less, It's an S case. If it's above, $50,000, then you can, file a regular case with a tax court. So the conclusion to all of this is that, understanding the difference between the civil and criminal law, and like I mentioned, the difference with the federal and state courts, and the role that they all play. All right. And the United States tax court as well. It's literally, this is like, I'm praying that this is like a foundational map for you guys, and because it's a foundational map for how this country is built on, right? It gives everybody the opportunity to utilize it, but some people are so combative that they utilize it not in the right way, or they're not taught properly, and then they're going in there and they're just acting a fool, and they're not winning nothing, and so or they're doing things where it's just, oh gosh, it's just such a hot mess, you guys. But anyways, so while civil law, focuses on revealing, like, or resolving private disputes, and, compensating victims, right? Personal injury, all that. Criminal law obviously aims to punish offenses against society, right? Embezzling. Can you imagine if somebody came into your business and embezzled, right? They're doing a white collar crime. Like I was in this webinar with someone in the fraud examination class, and there was a case where this guy was stealing from a company. It's a corporate company. It was a corporate company, and he was only taking petty cash. Okay, but to that company, petty cash was like $5 million. Okay, so it's like, you know what I'm saying? It can add up. And it's like, let's say you were an owner of a multi-million dollar company, and somebody just keeps taking here and there. That's $5 million out of your stuff. You know what I mean? That's embezzlement. And so, he went to prison and all of that. And then the tax schemes that happen where people are, saying that birth certificates owe them money and all this other stuff. It's like, you guys really need to do the due diligence before acting in from a space of emotional or spiritual invocation that people invoke, because a lot of the things online, it seems that it can poke at our spirituality and our emotional buttons, and then we can get all like, "Ugh," and start acting a fool, and in the long run, it doesn't help us. So, but that is what criminal cases or criminal courts aim, is to punish offenders, right? And state courts obviously handle the vast majority of everyday legal matters, while the federal serves specialize in addressing federal laws, constitutional issues, treaties, interstate disputes, and finally is just this United States tax court that ensures that that highly technical areas of law are handled with the necessary expertise to each. Okay, and so obviously tax court handles taxes, right? And so together, these systems work to really administer justice and protect rights and maintain order in our society, and as best as possible, because there's just a lot of stuff going on, and obviously, it can't be perfect, but it's there to try to help as much as possible. So anyways, I hope that that makes sense. So now I want to be able to, like, comment down below and tell me, now, did this help you? Did this series help you on now understanding what each court does? Okay, what laws and statutes apply to what and whatever, and did it help you better comprehend, so that way when you go into digital realms of like Instagram, and you go into TikTok, and you go into Facebook, and then so and so went and tried to try to go and sue United States tax court. Like, now do you know what you're looking at, you know? Now I did a motion to dismiss, things like that. If you're following this free channel that's free to you, you will learn a lot just in this little space of time. Okay? So, get your girl a coffee. Seriously, it doesn't cost that much. And yeah, I hope that that helped you. Drop a comment down below if it did. I want to know that I'm helping somebody. And yeah. And again, if you guys are interested in the private academy, it's going to be there for $55 for the next few weeks. And if you come in at $55, even if it goes up in price in the next 2 weeks, you're not going to get you'll have the founding member price, which would be the $55 a month. So other than that, you guys, we're gonna get back into motions. Let me see. I have my I think it's motions to, let me just make sure I have it. What courts? Hmm, I don't know if it's this one. Let me see. Let me just make sure that I think it's we're gonna continue on motions. And so that's gonna be next week. And I hope to see you guys there. And if not, I hope to also see you guys on my private academy because that's where I go live. And again, like I mentioned, I do Zoom, so you can ask me questions directly. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you. I will see you guys on my next video. Take care, you guys.